Hey Eka, it's we're going to look at your chart today. It's Penelope in London, by the way, guys, and you're wondering what we're up to here. This is Eka, and we've decided that we're going to do a bit of exploration on Eka's chart. Eka, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hi, I'm really excited to be here with Penelope today and learn about the unseen, or what maybe already is. So this will be good. Thank you.
Yes. Have you ever had your chart looked at before out of interest? And what's your, what's your thing with different things like this,
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy real ancient storytelling, and I mean, astrology is always something that I've really related to. However, this sort of like grid reading method in such in-depth detail, like I have no idea what's going on. So this is going to be really fun.
So have you ever pulled up your chart at any time and in your life and decided, oh, I'm going to have a look at it, or for me bringing this up, is it ever, you've never done it before?
No, it's literally just reading things online. I try not to read ahead to see what will happen. I like looking at like maybe the past days, or if I've had a bad day, and I can go, oof, that was really true and that was on point.
Yeah.
I think it's almost a better way to deal with it that way, rather than try and read ahead and read your future, because you can then meddle with.
We can be influenced, and also when we're looking at newspapers and such things like that, like what we're really, that's not the real astrology. Like, so we've got a sun sign, and then we've got all of these other planets. So looking at it from this point of view, which is very important for people out there as well to understand this, which most people who follow me will know this anyway. I do in part evolutionary astrology, and if we look at the work of Carl Jung, because Carl Jung used astrology when he hit a wall with his patients. He used to bring out, he loved the symbolism. And this is one of the reasons also he fell out with Freud. They have this differing opinion, because I think, not that I've read Freud much, or, I haven't dug into his work, but you can, from the appearance of him, I can see there's sort of some right brain stuff going on there, whereas Jung was more left brain and, sorry, right brain. There was left brain is left brain is analytical. This is Mercury retrograde, everybody, so just ignore me. Left brain was the analytical stuff, and the right brain is where we, it's our dreamscape. It's the dreams and the bigger picture. The Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the nomad of going across the lands and collecting the information and being the know-all of information, because it's so collected. And it's the bigger picture. It's whereas the Mercury aspect is very in the thinking, is very analytical. It's like, what do I need, from the shops, what bills do I need to pay? And it's very subjective. It's like what I'm feeling in this moment. Whereas Jupiter will see the bigger picture, Sagittarius. So what you have is that Jung said in Aeon, which is one of his books, he said, this is how I use astrology, and personally, that the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. So do you need me to read that to you again to digest it, okay? No? So, yeah. So basically what this is saying is that as we go through life, we're trying to become conscious of something. And an astrology chart is a way of knowing ourselves and understanding ourselves, and to bring us to some point of becoming conscious about something that maybe we wouldn't be conscious of otherwise. It doesn't mean that it's, nothing's written in stone, but it's a way of understanding ourselves. And there are many ways of doing it. In evolutionary astrology, if you can see my marker here, can you see the chart and my marker?
Yep.
Okay, so we know here that your time of date of place of birth are up here, but we can see that your sun sign is in the sign of Leo. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
You're a Leo, yeah? So your Leo, the Leo in you will shine your light, and it's also in the 10th house, which is career. So there's something probably that you're probably going to be a bit of a star in this lifetime in more than one ways, I would imagine. Then you've got your sun, and then what you have is that you have after that we would look at the moon. What is the moon doing? So we know that your sun is at 15 degrees of Leo, and you see this box here that you've got going on. If you were looking at this yourself, you would see that these are the planets, the snapshot of the heavens at your time of birth. Okay, so the sun was at the sun was at 15 degrees 58 of Leo, and your moon is at 1 degree 56 here of Scorpio. So the Scorpio moon means that you're very in deep emotions, and you sort of dive into the deep in your emotions, and you can be your emotions can be very hidden, but they can be quite very intense. Would you agree with that? Do you have intense?
Yeah. It's hard to know when there's the right time and the place for emotions, but I say that to myself, but then with others, I'm like, show me your emotion, so it definitely makes sense.
Because Scorpio is also to do with psychology, it's to do with psychology. And then we have, so the sun we've got 360 degrees on a chart, yeah? So this is the inner planets, or not, inside the chart are your natal planets. And then the lines that you see are where the planets are speaking to each other. They're degrees apart. So they've been agreed by, time gone by, and that, a square is a 90-degree angle. A trine is where a planet is 120 degrees from another planet. You've got a nice kite here. I won't go into that today, but you've got this beautiful symbolism, which is a kite. These are planets. They're talking to each other in a particular way. You've got trines, which are energies that are really easy, but trines can make us lazy. So it could be like, it could be, as an example, that, I've got this gift and talent, but I'm not particularly going to make an effort to use it. So it's not, whilst they're gifts, they can also be seen as where we can be lazy with ourselves. Yeah, but the squares, whilst they're difficult and they can be challenging, they actually can make us go forward. So it will be like going to the gym, and that in order to, get anywhere, you're going to have to pick up that weight, and you're going to have to move your arms. So the square is almost like the tension that we feel, like, oh my God, it's like, what's going on? It's like, so the tension between planets shows us the tension between the archetype of the planet and where the planet is, the area of life it's in. The moon takes 28 days to move around the chart, okay, roughly 28 days. So we have, each month we have a new moon and a full moon. Yeah. So if we have so we know that you were born, it was sort of halfway through there, because if that hit 15 degrees, thankfully it doesn't, it would be a square. So if that was sort of here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. So if the sun was square the moon, you would have to, it would create a particular difficulty in, so squares can create challenges for us. Then what you have is that you have the other things going on here, which were too intense for today. These are called biquintiles, and they've got quintiles and biquintiles, and we've got also something called inconjunct. So all of these lines are different aspects of degree, which is, it takes a lot of work. And Pluto in astrology is the soul journey. It's all that's unconscious in us. Have you ever seen the picture where you've got the unconscious, like it's like a piece of rock above the ocean?
Yeah.
And then, like you've got some land above and then you've seen the picture where below the ocean, you've got this huge other piece that you just,
like icebergs.
Huh?
Like icebergs.
I like an iceberg, yeah. So Pluto is what, it's a soul journey, but at the same time, we've got all of this other stuff that's unseen. So Pluto is what's unseen. And Pluto is, can also be our trauma from past life as well. The trauma that we're dealing with. So Pluto takes about 240 years to move around the chart. So give me an example. Pluto was here when you were born, and since on the outside of the wheel, you have where the planets are right now. So right now, if the moon is in the sign of Virgo, and it just happens to be, and you look extremely beautiful today, I have to say, the moon is on your Venus. So there's this beautiful thing going on at the moment with you, right? But it lasts, the moon will take 2.5 days through a sign. So for a few hours, whilst the moon crosses over Venus in the sign of Virgo, which is your your sign and where your Venus in Virgo. Venus in Virgo loves like it can be quite perfectionist. You know, the bar is up there. So it's like that you raise the bar, and sometimes you can raise the bar to yourself, which can give you, because you want to be perfect, it can give you a lot of uncomfortability in yourself. Or with you know, if it matters of the heart, you know, you might think that you'll just think there's got to be somebody just that little bit better out there. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes this is good, because some of us can go exactly the other way and have no you know, standards at all. So Venus in Virgo, it's got its upside and it's got its downside. But all of us, I've got my Venus in Aries, but in the 5th house. So my Venus in Aries means that I want to, how I pursue matters of the heart would be that I like the chase. So if somebody comes and chases me, I'm actually not interested. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm sort of going at things that's what I want. So I need that in order to feel alive, which is a dilemma for me, because really I just want to be loved. But and then mine is in the 5th house, which means in my 5th house, it means that I like to flirt and be fun and playful, and I like to be creative with it. So I want the attention. There can be a bit of narcissism there, but so it's a double-edged sword. My Venus in Virgo, no, my Venus in Aries in the 5th house is a bit of a dilemma for me, as we well know, because we have our private conversations. But when we look at these things, we can learn more about who we are and how we, you know, deal with life. So if I would tell you then that the next thing is that we would look at we know that your Mercury then is in the sign of Virgo as well. So your Mercury is in Virgo. Your thinking can also be where you want to, you know, you're very left brain with them. You want things to be in order. You like things to be tidy. You want order, and you want things to be sort of also in groups of people, because the Mercury is in the 11th house for you. So your hopes and dreams, it's like the way you're seeing things is in the flow of almost like the perfection of things, with the, you know, the counting numbers. Do you like counting? I think you mentioned that you like counting things.
Yeah, numerology gets me going.
So the thing is that the mind is so we'll go deeper into that, but then Mercury takes 88 days around the chart. Okay, so all of the planets are moving at different speeds. So Mercury is 88 days. So right now, Mercury, if we look around the chart, where is Mercury right now? Mercury, we know, you don't know this, but Mercury is in the sign of Gemini right now, and it's going retrograde. So we know that by looking at your chart, the Mercury is in retrograde and it's in your 8th house. So you might be going, for instance, we would say at the moment, you may be going over in your mind what has happened over the last 3 months, like where you're rewinding on resources and you're thinking about where you've merged with people. You might be going over past people that you've merged with that have shown up in the last couple of weeks. So people can show up from the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have that as well, which is nice, you know. So
yeah. Has that happened? Has somebody come up from your past in the last?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few things. I think lockdown was interesting because we all sort of realized where we stood with people, and just to clarify that, it's good to take yourself off by yourself and then see who comes looking for you again as well, you know. And then on the other sort of angle of that, I've been doing a lot of creative work as well, as per usual, but more in like the music sort of area of things. And it's amazing when you're writing lyrics or you're singing songs, and all of a sudden you're like, I know who I need, and you send them a wee message, and it's like there wouldn't have been a better moment to be talking to them, you know. So it's really good.
These things can show up in astrology. So you know, the other lovely thing you've got going on at the moment, that you're let's see what else is going on here. So then we got the Mercury, which is 88 days around the chart. So Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and three or four times a year. And when it goes retrograde, it's not a scary thing. We might know in you know, in astrology, you know, we hear, oh, Mercury's going to go retrograde. It's like, it's all scary. It's not scary. It's rewind, release, and review, rewind, release. And because it's when Mercury's retrograde, it's to do with our, you know, I'm going over paperwork, I'm finishing things off. What haven't I finished? How do I think about that? What do I feel about that? And because it's in Gemini, it's to do with communication. So it doesn't always go retrograde in the sign of Gemini. Next time it goes retrograde, it will go retrograde in a different sign because it's moving. And wherever it lands, then it'll go retrograde. So wherever, and that will be the area of life that we're dealing with. So for you, it's been, you know, to do with that, where we've merged with others and resources as well. Resources can be, you know, more than one thing, not just the financial resources. You know, our talents as well would be, you know, not. But if we're sharing something like that, if we're sharing our talents, you know, it could be all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I mean, even over the past year, I mean, I've met two amazing Geminis, yourself, and there's my other friend, and she's awfully creative. Like, she's like a wizard. So are you. But you know, it's just I love the idea of like task management. So, you know, what I believed for a long time was everybody's in the wrong job, you know, so there's somebody's
out like task management, is that what you said?
Well, task management in terms of apply your skills to where they're best suited, you know, but for a long time I felt like everybody was in the wrong jobs, you know, like you could be a fireman but you're an amazing artist, or you're a doctor but you're a great singer, or whatever job it was, you know, and or maybe people, I don't know, you know, could be working, I don't know, doing bushes and hedges or something, or gardening, but you're like, they were born to be a doctor or a scientist, you know. It just felt like the way financial pathways work in our modern society doesn't allow everybody to stream into where their skill set is best sort of
exactly
placed, you know. So this is really good. And then I'll find that, well, I've met two Geminis in the last year that just amazed me, so thank you for being one of them. But like, we can share these skill sets and even boost each other's confidence by being around each other, you know. So that makes so much sense.
Exactly. Making YouTubes and all sorts of things. And then what we got as well, so then we've got Mars. Now Mars is to do with the libido, so not just the sexual libido. Libido is the energy of life. Like Mars is the thing that I'm gonna go for that. I want that. I want to make this music track. I want to have my YouTube channel. I want to, you know, climb that mountain. I want to go and work. I'm going to go and work out. I'm going to go and do my exercise. So Mars, but Mars on the other side is very impulsive. Mars is in part unconscious. But it's connected in with Pluto, because Pluto is what's unconscious, but Mars sort of comes through. So Pluto's like the ocean, beautiful ocean. And then Mars is that wave that comes out, but it's not separate. It might look like, whoa, look at that wave, all that energy, but it's not separate from the ocean, and it never is. As we feel this sense of separation, and we like to feel like we're separate, like I'm not like you, and I'm not saying I'm not like you, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm you know, I'm not like those people over there, I'm not like those evil people over there, I'm special, I'm, you know, I'm my own. But we're all connected, and we've all got these parts in us, you know, there's this total connection. But so we go through the phase of wanting to, we want to, as Jeff Wolf Green would say in Evolutionary Astrology, I think he's about 75 now, so, but he would say, we want to return to source, whatever that is, but there's also this resistance to being connected, which is our ego-based personality. But the ego is not all ego is not all, you know. In spirituality, it's being messed around with a bit, because people think the ego is something really bad to be got rid of. Without the ego, we have the super ego, which is the parental voice that our implicit stuff that we grow up with, and society's voice, the super ego of the government, and the super ego of, you know, you've got to do as you're told and you've got to get this done. But at the same time, we have the ego is tied in with our values and our needs. It's not separate to that. It's our choice maker. You know, my ego, I don't like that. It's like, so if we get rid of all of that ego-centric stuff in us, then we're sort of not anybody. So you know, we can embrace that we have an ego because it's not separate. We can't, you know, separate
I
it.
always thought of the ego is almost like a brain. You know, the way they say you've got 3 brains, you know, you've got your brain up here, and then your heart, and then your gut.
Yeah.
But then there's something else around this region, that like your stomach region,
Yeah.
that they all got started like taking appendixes out because they thought, oh, nobody needs them, they're just causing people a bother. But there's something in my, I don't know, inner knowing that makes me feel like the ego is like somewhere around the appendix or something. And every so often, you know, it like squirts a bunch of shite out or horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse my French.
No,
And
okay.
French people will be like, oh, but it squirts a bunch of stuff out. And that's whenever our eccentric ego starts to kick in, and you're like, ah, shh. But you can't almost help it. It's until you learn how to control it, just like control what we're eating,
or to learn to integrate it. So it's more integration, because as we were speaking earlier about values and needs, like what I'm working on at the moment with my Saturn is about restriction, and where it's going retrograde for me. The planets go retrograde at different points in the year. So Saturn retrograde for me is moving back into my 2nd house of my values. So it's forcing me to look at, well, what do I value? And I very much decided today, I thought, you know, I'm upset that so-and-so doesn't value me the way I want to be valued. But then I thought, hang on, I've just reclaimed something huge, because what's happened is I thought, oh my God, I have to value, you know, I'm angry that I'm not been valuing myself.
Yeah, it's like extra digestion.
But Saturn is like, yeah. Saturn is like the, you know, the father type figure. It's Saturn rules Capricorn, and Capricorn is to do with, you know, government, father, the archetype of father. It's also to do with the patriarchal. So that in us is that, you know, saying, come on now, you've got to, you know, you've got to be in at 10 o'clock at night. You've got to get that. Saturn is like, if you want that, you know, if you want to lose those 10 pounds, then you've got to, you know, you've got to work for it. The wisdom comes. So Saturn is, although it's restriction, and we know that in the, you know, we believe that we see through the space crafts or whatever that go up, but we send out to space, that Saturn has got rings around it. Apparently Saturn's losing its rings. That says a lot for humanity.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Maybe we are losing the rings finally, because so Saturn will run rings around us. And yeah. So if we go back to the beginning of time, possibly that man would have been on Earth. I mean, I couldn't possibly imagine that the world would have been surrounded by beautiful flowers and all of these beautiful things, and this beautiful water, and very untouched and magical, and with flowers and, you know, these things, and that there would have been no life on Earth. As an example, I don't know, but just nothingness. And then as man developed, and the consciousness, because we're at a very incredible stage that consciousness is still developing, where, you know, we can see that what's going on in the world right now, that there's still huge amounts of unconsciousness. And I don't say that from an egocentric point of view, you know, that it's very much that, you know, I've been unconscious in my life, but I wouldn't say, you know, how conscious do I think I am? Because really the fight is with the soul, or not the fight, but the integration. It's not to do with just, you know, I'm more conscious than Joe Bloggs over there.
If we're not learning every day, what are we here for, you know?
Yeah. So I even think enlightenment's a bit of a joke to me, because I think this is a constant state of becoming. And even with the work of Carl Jung and the shadow, the more we look at the shadow and we say, oh yeah, you know, I've got this evil little monster in me that could, you know, kill the wasps and the flies if they come near me. We're not all so pure and squeaky clean.
No, well, I mean, horror movies have just taken that totally out of context, you know.
Yeah. The Hollywood, yeah, the brainwashing of, you know, like, because fundamentally I think that most human beings are decent and kind and respectful, but we do have our emotional tendencies to, you know, we're dealing with the consciousness and our wounding. So Mars is the sexual libido, but it's also the libido of the energy of like, I want that. Yeah, I want that guy. I want that something. We've got no control over that impulse sometimes, and we don't know why we want it, and we think, why do I keep doing this thing that I don't really want, and I'm still doing it? So we have the unconscious, Pluto, and Mars is the and then the returning to, which we're all going to return to. eventually. So Mars takes 2 years around the chart. And currently your Mars is in the sign of, it's in the sign of Leo. It's in the Leo for everyone. The outside of the chart is where the planets are right now collectively. So the Mars is in your 10th house. So this shows that you right now that you're looking at your work, your career, your focus is on that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. It's not the way that I imagined going about it, but that's to do with everything being refreshed, I suppose, isn't it? So everybody's getting the opportunity to look at things from a different angle, really.
And Leo as well. So, and it means that we can be a little bit arrogant when Mars goes into Leo, because we're all saying, look at me, because Leo wants to be seen. Yeah. But Leo can also be where the other end of it is where I can be insecure because I'm not being seen. You get me? So we have the higher, I don't really particularly like the word vibration because it sounds a bit like the movie The Secret, but we've got the higher octave and the lower octave of everything. We've got the polarity point of everything. Yeah. So we've got with Pluto, what we would do is then in evolutionary astrology, we would look to how do I balance that Pluto, the unconscious Pluto in Scorpio. You have a generation because Pluto takes 240 odd years around the chart. So I'm Pluto Virgo. I was born in 1966. Nobody believes me, but that's good. So, so I enjoy that bit. So the thing is, what you've got that. So my Pluto's in Virgo. So Pluto would spend, you know, if we do about 20 odd years plus in a sign, you know, it's not moving slowly. So if you look from birth, your Pluto was here in the sign of, you know, in Scorpio, and it's gone boom, 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 up to your age that you are now. Yeah. So Pluto's gone, this is where it's moved to. So Pluto's never going to go, unless we live 240 years, it's never going to go all the way around the chart. But something that may give you a bit more of an understanding, if you look at the sun here, when it's your birthday, you see the sun is here. This is the sun at the moment. The sun is in Gemini. I'm 0 degrees. When it was my birthday, because I'm 0 degrees Gemini, the sun fell 0 degrees in my chart there. And it's gone boom, boom, boom. And the sun is just about in a few days, in fact, because there's 30 degrees in a sign always, it's going to, in a few days, which is 4 days, it's going to move into the sign of Cancer. Yeah. And it will be in Cancer for 30 days, and then it will move into the sign of Leo. And then when it gets to 15 degrees, that sun will land on your sun. I'll show you that on Solar Fire. Yeah. The other chart system. And that will, so when the sun is conjunct the sun, when a planet's conjunct another planet, it's on top of it in the same constellation, because Leo is a constellation. Sagittarius, if we look at the Milky Way, that is the constellation of Sagittarius.
Yeah. I remember I got this app and I was walking about every time I was walking home from work and stuff. I was like looking up, like, ooh, and it was amazing seeing
the constellation,
astrology, and see what was happening, reading the things that were written about that date or whatever, and then actually seeing the pictures in the sky. Like, how beautiful is that? You know.
I've got Make outside my window from the app. She's over there, up there. The constellations are very beautiful. And the thing is that then we've got, if man at the beginning of time later, we would have had Galileo, we would have had Nostradamus in the 1500s. They were all born at slightly different times. I don't know. I was trying to figure out I don't think Nostradamus and Galileo ever crossed paths, but at that time, and also, you know, people were making telescopes to be able to see the planets. So, but if we went back even further and we went back to, you know, 2000 years or 3000 years or 4000 years ago, people would have been sitting, you know, very much without all of the luxuries we have now, like electricity, mobile phones, whatever. And they would have been sitting with their fire and, you know, and looking to the stars.
So there's charts.
And they would have been looking, oh, look, that looks like a jug, or that looks like, let's think about it. They wouldn't have been any more particularly intelligent than, you know, it would have been, there would have been a way of, it would have been consciousness. So it's not even intelligence in human beings, it's consciousness. Because if we go back to Galileo and the consciousness of some of the characters of that time, Galileo, Nostradamus and such, and Michelangelo, that you see the beauty of that period. There were the people of that period were not less conscious. It was not.
No.
It's more, there's something deeper. It's more of a soul thing.
Yeah. Like just allowing intuition just to flow without being embarrassed that someone's going to call them the nutty one or whatever, you know. Yeah. But I mean, that was the science of that era as well. So
you said you like science as well.
Yeah, I love science. I love learning how things work. Like there's not a lot
technology.
I don't care. Well, yeah, everything. Especially nature. I love just seeing how things interact with each other, you know. And there's somebody could sit and tell me, you know, that everyone has their own interests and special interests, and I love learning. I'm always doing a course, you know. I feel like,
well, you see the thing here.
Yeah.
So you've got, if you look at the ninth house, the ninth house is higher education, it's religion, it's spirituality, and it's overseas. And it's also, the ruler is Jupiter of the ninth house traditionally. So this means that it's also, Jupiter is to do with the bigger picture. And Sagittarius, it's to do, if you take the, you know, it's the arrow, it's that if we looked in the sky with the app, when we found Sagittarius, it would be the guy with the arrow, you know, like shooting the arrow, and it's like sending that information forth. So you can begin to see that, like computers, what's, I would imagine that's happened is that people have given definition to what that means. Like we give definition to what a byte means or a megabyte means or this means. We've given it definition, and we've given it a label, which is very Gemini to label in a subjective manner what that means. And then people collect that data, which is the Sagittarius. I'm going to collect that data and keep that data. And then we keep passing the data on. This is what language is, and symbolism. Yeah. So the Gemini, so you like doing short courses and things. You just said that you like doing courses.
Yeah. I'll just take a notion and I'll be like, I need to know more, and I'll just get so engrossed in things. And even if it's something that there isn't a course on or I can't find it, I'll just go on a quest of information. And it's not that it's probably a bit sad that I don't like writing things down so much, but I'm a great talker. So, I mean, there's sometimes I'll go completely quiet, but whenever I have something that needs shared, or I know that somebody needs a little bit of like that world to soothe them, I'll be like, well, wait to hear about this, you know. And I love sharing in that way.
It would be, I think, with the Scorpio, you know, people would look at every astrologer is going to see a chart differently, because the thing is, it's like reading a piece of music. It's like, you know, everybody's going to express a piece of music in a slightly different way with the tone of their voice or the way they play an instrument. That whatever's coming, you know, we've got, this is a tool, and then what comes through is the same as playing music. Or like the music you're making, you're going to do, you could give same people the same bit of music or whatever, or the same, and it's going to come out a different.
Well, I never sing the same song like the same way twice. And even whenever I'm playing with other people, some people love it and some people go bananas over it because they're like, I wasn't ready for that. And I'm like, well, I'm just feeling the mood, you know.
So actually your Venus is in the 12th house, which your Venus is in the 12th house actually here. And what you've got, let me see, this is 12, so in the 12th house, and this does make you very artistic as well, and quite beautiful. It's like, you know, that it's really important to you in your private time that you will, the thing is with that Venus in the 12th is that you could be at a point where you think that the beauty is in the future, but it's always in the now. So you might always be seeking for that beauty, like thinking it's coming to you, but it's you've got it now.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think that's something I've maybe learned in the last few years is, I mean,
we're not stuck in the chart, we evolve it. So
trying to survive, you know, can be a way of life. And then you just go Eckhart Tolle, you know, and just be like, in this moment, this is all that is, you know, and just whatever comes next, just ride the wave.
And fantasy, you know, fantasy is great. And another astrologer told me that years ago. She said, you know, Penelope, she said, fantasy is great. She said, but, you know, play with the fantasy, but know what's fantasy, you know what's real. So we can allow that fantasy and the imagination. Like I was going to go off to California and I was going to do this and do that. And then we had lockdown. And
Yeah,
that was
but
like,
it gets,
okay.
fantasy gets you to the next place,
Huh?
you know, so that it allows you to enjoy the moment more, because
Ah.
earlier on we were dreaming and it got me here, you know, so then you can sit and be like, surrounded by my blessings, you know.
But then you've got at the moment, so you had Venus go over your Venus at the moment. Let me just see there. Venus is, I'm going to bring up the other chart in a minute, because then I can see the degrees better, because I can move. So then you've got, so Mars is, so we know that Mars is 2 years around the chart. So in the coming, Mars is up here at the moment. So when Mars hits every 2 years, when it conjuncts, so Mars goes boom, 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 and when it becomes there, you'll have what's called the Mars return. And when we have the Mars return, we then have a bit of a change in our personality, because we've got something different come up that's come to us. Be like, okay, this is what I'm doing next, because Mars is that libido. It's our new goal.
And you're going round.
So Mars is here, and then it will hit here. Mars takes 2 years to move around. So we'll pull up the other chart in a minute, the solar fire, and I'll show you when Mars will do that. And then we've got the outer planets. So we've got Jupiter. And Jupiter is to do, it's also our gift, but it's also where we can be very grandiose. It's like we can be dogmatic, but Jupiter is in your 9th house of education and overseas travel. So, and it's also where it's our spirituality and our religion. It's our belief systems, and it's the belief systems in part that have been given to us by consensus and our family and whoever, but it's also our own beliefs. Yeah, we've all got our own beliefs. We have the beliefs that we were given, because everything we're running on really is the beliefs of what's been passed on, but then we've got our own beliefs, which is unique. And then you've got, that's Jupiter is 12 years around the chart it takes. So your Jupiter right now, so if we look, Jupiter is here. When you were born, it's gone once around the chart, and it's gone all the way back, and then it's gone twice around the chart, and then it's gone the 3rd time, and it's right now, it's in your 5th house. So Jupiter really is expanding for you as the planets move around. It's expanding for you in your creativity and fun and joy. So, you know, this is quite probably the last, well, look at that on the chart as well, but that Jupiter there means that, you know, there's expansion in that area. Fun, joy, and creativity. It's expansive, but at the same time, we don't want to be grandiose and a know-it-all, because Jupiter can be like, well, I know, you know, I'm the best and I know it all. And then we see this dogma in spirituality, and we also see the dogma in religion. You know, like the idea that I'm right, and it causes wars. So Jupiter,
and then people expect certain things of us, and we have no space for learning our mistakes, you know. I
used to be quite dogmatic with my Jupiter in my early years, or my beliefs, but now I'm more, because my Pluto is actually in the 9th house, which is to do with that, and the 9th house is Sagittarius. It's complex when you don't know astrology, but I know that when you probably play this back, you're gonna, you know, with the Gemini and you're learning, you'll probably pick up a lot from this quite quickly. Your Gemini is in your house of learning and higher education, so that's important to you. You've also got then that we would go to next to Saturn, and Saturn is to do with where we're restricted. It's like that lesson we're going to learn. It's like father, but father is, you know, the archetype of father. And you know, in myth and the stories, you like that father, you know, we got Father Christmas, we got you know, our Father who art in heaven. We've got the father. So the father, you know, the father of the land. So father is not just the word father, it contains the whole collective, the archetypes and the collective unconscious, which was the bulk of Carl Gustav Jung's work, that we are running on the collective unconscious, you know, the Superman, all of these things we believe, that we comprehend them.
And make it base for the rest.
And then we have, so with Saturn is 29 and a half years around the chart. So Saturn shows here that there would have been restriction in communication within siblings or in family or at home. In the home, there would have been a sense of restriction. But then when we begin to look at planets, we begin to see, oh, that planet's like, look, that planet's 8 degrees and that's 10 degrees. So that makes it a conjunction, which then changes the the meaning of the planet, the way the planets are connecting with each other, which is not a bad thing. Like you've got your Mars here conjunct your Mercury, and you've got Jupiter. Let's see, you've got, this is a weak conjunction, so this shows a particular symbolism. I don't want to go too deep today, but we can do some more work on this. But you can begin to see that how a planet speaks to each other depending on Mars conjunct Mercury. We would say, oh, what does Mars conjunct Mercury mean? And then what does that mean now? It's in the 11th house of groups, yeah, and hopes and dreams, and it's in the sign of Virgo. So we begin to integrate it all together. It really is reading something. And then what are those planets doing? Okay, so these planets up here, they're speaking to your 3rd house, which is your communication. The beautiful thing about that as we evolve, like that Saturn in Capricorn gives you the ability to be, you know, you can lead with communication as well. Whilst there's been restriction in the past, you can also lead with that. So, you know, it becomes something, it's not that we're stuck. A lot of people can think they can cry and they say, oh, my chart, it's my astrology chart, it's really painful. But we evolve it, you know, the planets are evolving that. We're not staying stuck in that moment. Then you've got, and then when you hit, most people, when they hit age 30, can go like through a form of depression, a sense of depression. Yeah, around the age of 29, 30, because when you were 29, 30, Saturn would have been, this Saturn would have been here, because there's a sense then of like, oh my God, it's like I've got to look after myself and mature. I'm not saying that happens for everybody that way. It can happen earlier. It depends on the totality.
It was a little bit earlier. And then
yeah,
it was like in preparation.
Yeah. And then we can get out of that. But knowing that can be really helpful to people, you know, think, oh, okay, I've got my Saturn return coming up. But if we live to 100, that's going to happen 3 times, because it's 29, 30 years.
Can you imagine the many midlife crises?
Saturn return. Yeah. And Saturn, for many people, when Saturn hits the ascendant, a lot of people, when Saturn moves through the 12th house, we can have a meltdown for many people. And we can see that play out in people's lives. But again, as we evolve it and we can understand ourselves, it doesn't mean the planets are doing it to us, because we have free will through our consciousness.
It's just our turn.
Exactly. So I know that, you know, I suffered huge losses then, but I needed a push, a wake up to begin to look at my trauma. So it instigated you know, working with the other planets, it could be seen on my chart. So then we've got Uranus, which takes 84 years around the chart, and Uranus is where we break free of limitations. It's like we throw off the shackles. Uranus is electrical, it's the nervous system, it's past life trauma. So it goes so deep, astrology, 84 years around the chart. Then we have Neptune, which is about 185 years around the chart. And Neptune is beyond the 5 senses. Neptune is where things like corona show up. It's like, oh, we can't see it. You know, Neptune is beyond. Neptune is to do with to do with our Pisces. It's the rules Pisces, and it's a pituitary gland. It's melatonin. It's also our sleep life, our dream life. You know, there's another world going on. It's not just this period. Yeah. So, and then we got Pluto, 240 years around the chart. So let's do this now, because I hope everybody's enjoying this out there, because if you know, looking at other people's charts, and people are saying, as I'm reading this, oh, but she's this and she's that, they'll know, other people will see things in your chart that I won't see. But clearly I can't mention everything that I see in one hit. So when people have an astrology reading, sometimes they think their life's going to be solved in an hour. It's, you know, it took me years to learn every aspect of my chart. What's this planet saying? What are the transits meaning? What are the degrees? It's an ongoing, which is the beauty of it.
We wouldn't appreciate it if we were able to just gobble it all up in one bite. You know, this is it. So
yeah, so let's do this now. And then we'll do another 10 minutes on this, and then we'll leave it there for today. Yeah. But this is, can you see this chart here, that it's a white screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see this. Right. So this is the same chart. This is exactly the same chart. The only difference is that we can't see all of the little degree points, because I prefer this style. I could use any format chart I wanted, but we can see the degrees. So what we could see right now is that this is your inner wheel. Do you remember your moon is at 2 degrees of your moon? This is 12, 17 actually, 14, and we know that your north node is in the sign of Aquarius, and it's in the 5th house. So this defines that you are, you know, very creative, and you think out of the box as well, and that you're seeking, you know, where you're very creative. It shows a lot of creativity, and that's your life path. In Aquarius, it's you need to give yourself permission to be different. It's about personal growth. It's accelerated by fully accepting your own unique qualities and by demonstrating your ability to stand for what you believe in. And this is especially true if you find yourself functioning within the confines of a group. Organizations or like-minded individuals can support your goals, and the challenge here is to be a part of the group without giving up your personal identity to it. So if you wanted to be part of groups and you're going to lose your identity, you are not going to like that. You will want out. That's Aquarius, Uranus. It's like you want to break free of the limitations of being too enmeshed within a group, which could make you could fall out with people because of it. Like you want to be part of group, but you don't want to be entangled in that group. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know you from a women's group as well, which is absolutely fantastic, but there are times I need to take breaks. I've been in groups for drama, bands, for music, you know, all the rest. And there is a point where I have a side project, you know, and that heals me as well. So, but balance is everything. And the thing is as well, we miss the things that we need breaks from as well, and that's what makes them beautiful, you know. So
absolutely. And when we miss people, like we fall out with people and then they show up again and we've evolved something, you know. And sometimes we don't, you know, it depends on so then in the 5th house, that north node there, I just noticed something on this chart I'll point out in a minute, but that north node in the 5th house is where the north node in the 5th house is where it's basically that you're following to get in touch with your own creative urges and honor your heart's desires. So this is really important to you in this lifetime, that you're honoring your heart desire, and but at the same time, you're doing it with others, groups, as long as you're not enmeshed to the point that you can't see, you know, yourself. You need to shine as well. And you must acknowledge your own will, you know, the importance, and you work well with children to some capacity. Is there any truth in that?
Oh yes. I think I look back at myself as a child, and I was very, very shy. I mean, the ones who I absolutely adored and took a lot of care of me used to call me Klingon. So I really appreciate that there's a lot of kids out there that don't know all the knowledge that a lot of adults go seeking for, and that sometimes that it's nice when, you know, you meet an adult when you're a kid and you're like, wow, they're amazing. And it's not about being the amazing one, but just it's the fact that acknowledge you're safe with them. Yeah. And there's always someone that, and I hope to goodness that there is always someone that children can find, and it'll be a different person every day. Maybe it's a teacher at school, or maybe it's like a friend of a parent, or a cousin or something. Yeah. And it doesn't matter that there's an age gap, but they can still see the inner child in each other, and that's beautiful.
So this is really also other people's children, the 5th house, because it's fun, joy, creativity, and it's being creative. And then it's where you can, and also because the ruler, so this is really deep stuff, but when we go so far, we'll do another video on your chart, but the north node is in Aquarius. So what is the ruler of Aquarius? We got the ruler is Uranus. So the Uranus is breaking free of limitations, and it's been out of the box. And that's in the 3rd house. It's the way you communication. Yeah, it's the way you communicate. So the way you're doing it is like you break the shackles of the way you're doing it. You're not doing it the way other people would do it with the 3rd house. Let me just see, actually, that 3rd house is it's where, you know, your joy lies in communicating in relationships, and you need to think clearly and develop your higher mind for fulfillment. And so that's what your oh, hang on a second, not that one, I've got the wrong one there. You've got, I've just brought up something else, but it's where your mind is very quick. That's the power of fortune there, actually. What I'm going to say there, you see, this is what it's connected to. That's what I was looking at. The power of fortune is the gift. So what I just read there is the gift, which is quite beautiful because it's conjunct the Saturn, which is also in part teacher in the 3rd house. And then you've got Neptune, which is also to do with, you know, the poetry and beyond the 5 senses. So you've got all of that in your communication with the gift, but also the Uranian energy, which of covering your North Node is where you're very quick and an original thinker. You're very quick. So you may not express that.
I'm a bit too quick for myself sometimes.
Yeah. You enjoy the study of unusual subjects, which you approach in your own original way, and you may have unusual relationships with siblings, but siblings don't always have to be the blood siblings. You know, this can be where you're also traveling. The 3rd house is what is local area and short journeys and trips. So do you do a lot of short journeys and unusual short journeys and trips and things? Anything unusual you do?
I love going to meet people to create art. So it's not that we'll necessarily have a plan in mind, but I mean, I studied past life regression there a couple of years ago, and it's not something that I go too deeply into in like a sort of study setting or anything, or do sessions on, but I do believe that there's things within us that need out and expressed, whether it be emotionally or through the things that we do. And even if we're not completely conscious of what we're manifesting, it's all to do with these inner things that we can see here on the chart, you know, but it's like there's characters within us that need to be played every so often, you know, and it's not, it's not that we're actually going, I'm acting like this or that, but there's something, you know, you meet somebody and you go, they're really shy in front of everybody, but then whenever you get them on your own, they're like, they've got this sparkle in a certain area of their personality. And I just love finding that and going like, right, let's just accelerate that and then get it out of our systems, and then we can go back to being like la la la, and then every so often you go and do that thing again, and it's just, it's nice, it lets out energy, you know.
Exactly. So then when you've got a planet, then, you know, like so for instance, my Uranus is in the sign of Virgo. So yours is in the sign of Capricorn. So it's these are generational. The outer planets are generational because they take longer to move. Yeah. The inner planets are more personal, like your sun in Leo. Anybody born your year could be born with any, you know, the sun anywhere. The moon is 2.5 days through a sign. So you could have born, if you were born 2.5 days later, for example, or 2 days later, you would have had a sun in Leo, but your moon would have been in the sign of Sagittarius. So that completely changes your personality. You know, you can't, so, and the degrees are really important. Like if you were born before noon, then your moon would be in Libra and not in, you know, if you were 2 degrees before, you would have been born with a different moon sign. So, you know, degrees and all of that, as we can see when I moved the chart, when I was showing you before we came on to record this, that the planets move. So as do we through the soul journey. And then, so the other thing with this 5th house, which is your life path, is that you can learn a lot by the observing and playing through play with other children, and then finding to mirror that in your own life. You give full expression to your capacity to love, and you make time for socializing as well. Make some time for socializing and the dating scene and partying. Work on feeling comfortable being the center of attention. So you need to work on being comfortable being the center of attention. Yeah.
Cool. Because we're doing it right now.
Yeah. So, you know, and then what we would also do, we would go, you know, it can be very deep because we've also got Chiron, which is our wound. The wound is the wound that we've come in with, that we need to integrate. So it doesn't mean we get rid of it. You know, we can never, like, you know from the women's group, my own history, it's not like we don't get rid of the wound, we integrate it so that it becomes something, it becomes the gift, which you probably observing me can see how my wound in depth has become a gift to the world.
Yeah. So, even the part about the, you know, playing with other children and things like this whole, you know, even we've done inner child work together, and that's a big part of, like, it's not necessarily like age group of children, even though I have done, you know, that work, that sort of work, but it's definitely like the inner child of people that, like, that's where, like, my sparks start to generate, you know.
Yeah. So then we've got Pluto's very deep work, Pluto, because it's what's in the unconscious. But for the Pluto Scorpio generation, you know, I'm Pluto Virgo, which is basically, you know, it sounds like I'm Pluto. Somebody like, who could we say with let's upset the world and mention the word Trump. he's Pluto Leo, yeah. So that would have been those people, and then pre that we would have had the generation Pluto Cancer. Then we've had Pluto Virgo, Pluto Sagittarius, Pluto Scorpio. Yeah, so you've got Pluto Scorpio, Pluto Sagittarius, and at the moment, any baby born now, Pluto is in Capricorn since 2008. So any babies born from 2008 and up until 2024 are going to be a Pluto Capricorn baby. But in 2024, Pluto is going to move into the sign of Aquarius for 20 years, and then we're going to have Pluto Aquarius. And the last time any babies were born Pluto Aquarius was in 240 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've got a renaissance of a new generation coming through that are going to shake off the shackles, because the ruler is Uranus. So it's going to shake off the shackles of the past.
Yeah.
Huge what's going on. The Pluto in Capricorn has been clearing the land and of the structure of the idea of you know, the patriarchal rule and the censorship, and we can see what's going on in society. It's being called out, and it's being called out because of what we had to go through, because we were so restricted, and nobody's allowed to make a post about celery juice on social media, because otherwise it might cause people harm. As an example, we have to laugh at some of the things that have been taking place.
It's crazy.
So when you look at Pluto Scorpio, then you would look at Pluto in the first house. So Pluto in the first house, we won't go into the Scorpio aspect, the generational, but for you, this is Pluto's got the upside. It's power. It's like where I am, transform myself. But the Pluto in the first house from the emotional trauma is when the need to balance their desire for independence and relationship generates a reality of feeling trapped by the needs and demands of others. So you might have felt trapped by the needs and the demands of others as you came into the world, in such a way to block or restrain their desire to do whatever they need to do in order to become who they are wanting to become. And it's being forced to make choices regarding changing conditions, and entrapment creates yet more trauma. So you may have experienced when you came into the world, like being entrapment. I want to be my own person. Yeah. And also the emotional trauma can occur when individuals create circumstances that enforce the awareness of egocentric limitations. It's very deep, this Pluto stuff. It's the idea where maybe you could feel like you're superhuman, but then we've got the limitations of the actual body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
But then what we would do is to rectify it, we would look at the polarity of that, you know, if you then look to others and you integrate the fact that there are others instead of running away. But at the same time, I think Simon Vorster said to me, who I showed you earlier, with Pluto in the first house, what we would be doing in this lifetime, you would be sitting back, you know, kicking off your shoes and putting your sunglasses on and, you know, and eating popcorn and saying, you know, it's where you're basically in a lifetime of you know, exploration. The first house is like, who am I? Who am I? It doesn't mean your soul is there. It just means that that symbolism is there. Your Pluto is going to move into the fourth house in the next couple of years, which we can look at some point, not today, but you know, it's very deep. So if we take then Saturn, when we said your Saturn return, and we'll end the video there, because all for you younger generation out there who are going to hit your Saturn return, we can see the trauma that's going on in society right now as well, through the chart. So watch Saturn. It's currently retrograde, 13 degrees in your 4th house. But if we go back, and we go back years, your Saturn return would have happened in 2000 and I'm going to go weeks ahead. What, 18, 19? Oh, Pluto, 5 degrees. We're looking at Saturn. It's gone retrograde, and then it went forward. So your Saturn return actually occurred around 2018 for you. So
yeah.
So you would have felt around then, you would have felt a bit like, oh my God, what is all this?
Like, what am I living? Like, what has been going on? And are these my boots? And then I was like, I know where the real shoes that fit me are, you know, and just went and found them. And I mean, there is a lot. It's almost like having a past life in this life as well, I think, in a way, you know.
It's maturing, and maturing can be...
Yeah, that wasn't the life that we're born into, and the environment that we're born into. Our
restriction.
Yeah, that's it. So
then we think it's going to be a particular way, you know, oh, I'm going to make my money, I'm going to meet the guy, the traditional, you know, stuff. I'm not saying you think that way. I'm just saying that if the consensus point of, you know, well, we get a job and we do this, and then we just think, oh my God, who am I? It's like, and I've got to look after myself too. It's like, what the hell is this about? So if we go back with that Saturn, I'm going back years now, and I can tell you that from, let's see, Saturn, I'm going to go back forward again. I'm doing a Mercury retrograde on everybody, just in case they're wondering what, by just flicking the planet. Now you see me, now you don't. So around the year of 2011 may have been very challenging for you. I don't know, were you challenged around 2011?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of like adult survival mode kicked in, and
how would you have been then?
I would have been really submissive to people.
12 years ago.
Yeah, and I would have allowed a lot, and I can now talk a wee bit more, like not completely, but there was a lot of scenarios that were happening that I thought were normal, and they weren't normal, and I'm only able to say that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But in 2018, I would have been like, right, that's not on anymore, you know. But I mean,
because you would have been going through. See, when Saturn moves through the 12th house, it's then which would have been here 2000. It takes 2.5 years through a sign.
Yeah.
As it moves through. If I go back even further.
What's normal, maybe saying what's normal is probably the wrong word, but what is ethical in terms of like how we treat each other as beings, you know, like there's like, we grow up as little children. This is where it goes back to like being able to communicate as a child, or like way. Yeah, it's like all that was restricted for me for a long time. And then whenever you start to even have like your first partners and things, and realize that that's not how we, you know, not how we would be allowing ourselves to be treated, you know.
Saturn is very big in astrology. They're all big, but you know, in their own beautiful way. But the Saturn then moving through the first house is when you would have, so that time your body may have felt very achy. You might have struggled with aches and pains and feeling like you couldn't move because Saturn is also our structure. The boundary is our skin. So we can see when we've got skin issues, actually what's really going on is that there's an issue with our inner, you know, my boundary, your boundary. It's like I'm trying, you know, there's something that's trying to be addressed. The Body Keeps Score is a brilliant book actually as well, but that's another matter. But as that Saturn moved over, what would have happened is as it moved through the first house, you would have then been redefining yourself and, you know, building up your body bit by bit. Did you get very
doing a lot of shadow?
A lot of people lose a lot of weight around that time as well. 2011. A lot of weight can be lost. There can be a lot of issues with food around that time. And then as it moved through, you know, Saturn would have then, you know, quite hard for you, would have hit your Pluto at some point. Saturn conjunct Pluto would have been very difficult. So you would have gone through, you know, there would have been other nice stuff going on. It's not all doom and gloom, but if we look then that your Saturn would have hit your in 2000 and
that was a big chunk. Like 2011, 2018 was just pure survival mode for me. You know, it was just like, yeah, it wasn't even about getting food in. It was just about staying alive. And
yeah,
and you know, what, and so however, yeah, and I had no real like maybe prospects for myself in a way. I sort of just thought we're all just going like this and this is the way life is, because that's what I was taught. But it's not about that. It's about sprinkling our gifts on things and walking off again.
I just want to say to anybody watching, sorry I'm moving the chart around, and what I'm trying to do is just point that get this second house here, and Mercury's retrograde, so I've really had fun, and I'm being tired today as well, so it's like, but see this here, I don't like that saying I'm tired, but actually normally I'm just like bouncing around. So today I think the heat's really got us, like the heat was sweltering overnight. So then it would have, when it moved into your second house around 2014, you would have begun to re-establish, oh, this is how I can have a new career, or I could, your hobbies then become a way of making money. Yeah. When it moves through the second house, not always for all people, but it becomes more, you know, about my value of how I'm going to make money for myself.
Yeah, and people started coming to me for my gifts, I suppose.
Yeah. And then in the communication in 2017, the way you communicated would have changed as it moved through there. And then right now, if we come up to date, it's in your fourth house. So you would, you know, this is to do with home. It's like your base, your home. So how you feel about your home. And this is 2021. And I think that's about it, really. This is where it is. It's going retrograde back to 6 degrees. And then by the end of the year, it will then, and then it will, you know, then it will go back to 6 degrees up until around the end of the year. And then it will go direct again. And that Jupiter is moving back into its retrograde. And in next week, it's going retrograde. In the next coming days, it's going to go retrograde back to 22 degrees Aquarius. And then it will go forward again. And so there's a lot of changes. It's in-depth, deep stuff. Yeah. How's that for you?
Yeah, I'm curious. I have one question. Even if you don't explain my scenario completely, but you mentioned the kite at the start, and that's something that stuck in my head because just at the end of last year we were making kites, and it was a really nice moment. And then you mentioned that, and I was like, oh, how long has that been around for, you know?
These things they go so much deeper because the planet's involved, and then it would be the houses involved, and it's a whole. So if you look up what the definition, it's like they've got things called a grand cross, a grand trine. You know, for me, I've got like a rectangle, which is a mystical thing, and people come up with their own definitions of, you know, there's a basic standard, but I'm not that into, I've not gone that deeply into these trine things and whatever, but it's a grand trine. It's you know, it looks like a kite, so it's a lovely thing. And it would just be the way the planets are flowing together, but we can look at that and, you know, at some point. But there you go. Are you good done for today?
Yes, thank you very much. It was really nice. And I have to say, you know, I was a bit sort of apprehensive in terms of, my goodness, am I going to be able to compute all this mentally? But it's just really soothing to know that everything that's going on is meant to be, and it's everybody's turn. You know, like I always think about even the star signs as, you know, they are on the clock as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way around to 12, and the minutes hands and the hour hands can't be in those places all the time. They're constantly moving, so we'll always be able to help each other out whatever scenario we're in. I'm grateful to have been maybe through my worst for now, enjoy a little bit of sunshine, and then maybe it'll be my ride again.
You've got some things going on over the next few years. I mean, you've got you've got your Pluto's going to be moving into your fourth house. You've got Neptune that's going to be moving into your sixth house of work and career, and then you'll have Uranus moving into your eighth house. So there's a lot, you know, you've got, so really it's the outer planets that really speak. The inner planets move very quickly, and if we look, you know, this is May 2021, this chart, but if this is June the 28th, if we look at there, what's going on, we can see, you know, that the sun will be moving in. So let me just show you up to your birthday. Let's go days so you understand this. The sun on the 28th of June, the sun is at 7 degrees of Cancer. And then we go forward and we keep moving the sun. It's moving 1 degree a day. Yeah. Other planets are moving at other different degrees a day. So the sun's moving. Can you see the sun moving?
Yeah, just up at the top there.
So it's 1 degree. It's going to be 1 degree on the 23rd of July. It will be 0 degrees of.
It's interesting how the planets move anti-clockwise, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we are clockwise. So what are we doing with our clocks, people? It doesn't make sense.
It's a different way of, it's the ecliptic. So
So
then we go forward, look, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And there you go. That will be on your birthday. Your birthday will be on your birthday. It will be when that hits there, which is this is the 7th of August, but you can see that the minutes there are slightly different. You see the little numbers?
yeah.
To get that exact, we would go. I hope this is helpful to anybody that's not. I wonder what we'll title this video. I don't know. I'm not asking the audience. I'll figure it out. How to know your chart. So if we go forward, you can see by minutes, we can see the sun actually would be hours actually, because then it would go into 37 and that's 50. Can you see what that's 53? 44. And the sun 49. And it's 51.
So busy in certain areas.
So this is the 8th of August. So you can see that, you know, you would have just as it's moved over, it's just going into the moon is just approaching. So it's going to be it will be a new moon. You would just, it's coming up to a new moon at that period, because the moon will be heading on into, so a few days, I think maybe within hours actually. Let's see, that would be a new moon. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So when the moon hits the sun on the 8th of August, it's actually going to be a new moon.
Yay!
Opportunity on a new moon.
It's good.
Oh, no, sorry, just around then. It's around that day. Can you see there?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
15, 16. Not exact, but it's around, you're having a birthday around. So I think we'll leave it there. Otherwise, my Gemini will just go on for the next 3 hours. And I really enjoyed that, Eka, and we'll do some more. Do you want to say goodbye to everyone? We're getting into the dark now here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate it, and it's just so nice just to be here in this moment.
Yes, it's lovely. I've enjoyed it too. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to stop sharing. What I'm going to do is, if you hang on there, I'm just going to stop recording and just hang on. But thanks to everybody for watching. And if you've got any questions on this or anything that you saw that you think I should have mentioned, you can mention to me. I'm quite happy to be get ideas and things. And that's great. So thanks, Eka, for that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, catch you later.
Bye-bye.